an Erasmus Plus project.
Yes.
The process allowed 160 low-skilled adults in Italy, Cyprus, Portugal, and the United Kingdom to identify and evaluate their personal, social, and learning to learn competence. Chiara will talk about the tools used in the pilot phase, that is, a questionnaire and competence cards for professional and immigration counseling, adapted by the Roma Tre University and carried out by Forma Azione. In your hands.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Joseph, for this presentation. As you already told us, I'm working Formazione, an organization, adult learning provider, and also vocational training provider based in Italy, in the middle of Italy. We work in adult learning among the other educational sector. I'm a project designer and manager, as well as an expert in adult learning, especially with reference to adults with vulnerable background. It's a pleasure to be here to share, but especially to learn from your experiences and research. And I will share this experience that we started in a master project, in the Erasmus Plus master project, to let low-skilled adults self-assess their personal, social, and learning to learn competence. What we did. We designed and carried out a path aimed at identifying and evaluating the personal, social, and learning to learn competence from 180 low-skilled adults all over Europe, in Italy, Cyprus, United Kingdom, and Portugal, as you can see. The idea is to activate a process for their self-awareness and empowerment that can facilitate their access to further training and also to employment opportunities. Why we selected this particular competence. As you imagine, this competence is one of the key competencies included in the recommendation on key competencies from the European Council issued in 2018. This competence, as you can read from the definition, you can have a look. It's really a complex competence. It includes really a wide range of skills which are relevant to different jobs and sectors, to personal and professional life, and that promotes self-awareness. Given this, it seems to us very relevant to reactivate and remotivate adults who need to access to further training and to new employment opportunities. Despite this relevance, this competence that we are going to call PSL now remains one of the least addressed key competencies, not only at institutional level, so at European and national level in priorities, but also at operative level in the definition of specific guidance, training, and evaluation tool by the providers who work at grassroots level. I will show you how it worked, the self-assessment in Italy, and the main lessons that we learned. We, as Joseph anticipated, tested two tools in the framework of our activities and relationship. We cooperated with public employment services, both for the recruitment of users and also for the administration of these tools. We involved 40 adults, most men, all low-skilled and long-term unemployed. we did this piloting in 5 months. And as you see, we did this activity online because of the COVID restrictions and the consequent and the lockdown. The tools that we piloted were already existing tools that have been adapted by Roma Tre University because they were already tested with different objective and target groups from the one of the master self-assessment. So we adapted them together with Roma Tre University, and we use it for the purpose of self-assessment of this PSL competence from low-skilled adults. The first tool was the QPCC. It's a questionnaire about the perception of one's skills and belief. It's a questionnaire including 63 items developed in the framework of a research commissioned by another learning organization called NOSFAP Roma. And it assesses 4 areas and the reference factors: affective one, volitional one, cognitive one, and motivational one. It works. It, as you can see from the slides, I hope so, presents some specific situation. It's in Italian, sorry, but the tool is in Italian. Specific situation to the users, and the user have to say how frequently they were in this situation, asking never, sometimes, often, always. And it is taught for the online administration. It's an online tool. At the end of the questionnaire, the user gained a report including a score for each of the 4 areas, the 4 evaluated areas, and also some insights for overcoming obstacles within areas where the score is very low. We selected these tools because the areas that was addressed in the tool are very relevant for the assessment of the PSL competence, and also the questionnaire presents a concrete situation of the daily life that it's easy to figure out from the users. So as to evaluate the frequencies. And also the report that is provided at the end of the questionnaire is very complete, and also the idea to give some suggestions or insights, not suggestions because they are only insights, is very interesting. The second tool are the competence cards, which have been developed for assessing the social skills of migrant people. We have 3 areas for the card: personal one, social one, and methodological skills. And on the front of the card, we have the name of the competencies, which in this case is decision making, then the translation in several languages, and also an infographic, which is very interesting when we work with low skills adults, because the competencies that we presented were not very understandable at the first sight. So the infographic helped us to explain them what we was talking about. On the back side of the card, we have some questions and also some suggestion for the practitioners to talk with the users and allow self-reflections. These cards were developed by the Bertelsmann Stiftung, and we can say also that they are very flexible because they are a tool that can be adapted to different users and different interaction process among the users and the practitioners. So they was very interesting tool as the QPCC. how we organize the testing procedures. We design the testing procedures for being in presence, and then we have to readapt it to the COVID-19 pandemic restriction. So we did it online in 3 sessions. The first session in small groups was meant at the presentation of the process, of the objective, of the PSL competence, and also to favor the knowledge among the professional and the beneficiaries. The second session, individual one, was the core one, and was about the self-assessment process. So we administrated one of the 2 tools. And then the third session, individual 1, 2, was meant as sharing with the users the results of the self-assessment. We presented the report summarizing both the competencies improved, but also their strengths in perspective of empowering the low-skilled adults. The users were requested for feedback by asking direct questions during the sessions, but also through 2 questionnaires developed by Roma Tre University. The first one to understand at the beginning if they have somehow cleared the process and the meaning of the PSL competence, and the third one to understand if they perceive the process they participated in as useful for their self-awareness, reactivation, and empowerment. About the tools, I already told that both tools were suitable. The only thing that we need to know to highlight is that the QPCC, having 63 items and a more complex language of the item comparing to the cards, is more suitable to adults who have good attention, concentration, and understanding of the Italian language. So this is more, while the cards are more flexible and can be administered even if the knowledge of the Italian language is not so developed. About the testing procedures, we were really afraid before starting the online testing, but we can say that the online administration was effective, and also as a side effect improved the users' digital skills and their self-confidence in their means to manage digital issue and problem. Obviously, we need to adapt this common procedure that we design to individual needs and also to the online tools. In this regard, the role of the public employment services professional in supporting us was very important, especially because they was at the side of some users when we administrated the tools, and the users felt more at ease because of their presence. And finally, this activity of self-assessment was something that represented also a sort of relief from the isolation that the people perceived during the COVID-19 lockdown. About the PSL competence, we understood that the PSL competence is not easily understandable, especially the skills which refer to the personal area, so we need to improve our way to explain it. Anyway, the users after the whole process showed increased awareness and ownership of the PSL competencies. They are willing to improve themselves, and they increase their trustiness with the professional who propose the participation in the process. About some gender difference, we can say that women are more explicitly willing to participate in new training opportunities than men. I already told about the cooperation between the practitioners from Formazione and Public Employment Services. We worked together both in designing the common online procedure, also in the administration of tools, and this gave us the possibility to share a permanent feedback about the testing implementation and also the results. We gain a lot of new competencies. I will only mention some of the one listed here. I would like to tell that we learned to apply a non-judgmental approach towards the users, which was really complex because you have only the online tool to communicate, and so the eyes, the languages, the words that we used were all meant at implementing this non-judgmental approach, and we had the perception to have concretely impacted on the target groups because we see the differences between the first and the third meeting in the process. So it was very effective also for us. And then we have the possibility to closely work and adapt our tools from practitioner coming from public employment services and practitioner coming for private organization, adult learning providers, as Formazione is. And now we are in a permanent learning activity in place to understand how to sustain the results of this cooperation. We also involved several stakeholders in the self-assessment process. Someone I already mentioned, like the Public Employment Service, but also the public adult education providers, and also volunteering organizations for recruiting the users. Then we shared the results of the self-assessment process with specific and relevant national stakeholders like EPALE, like INDIRE, the Erasmus Plus agency, RIDAP, the Italian network of public adult education providers, to have some suggestion about to assure the reusability and also the sustainability of the results we gain. They gave us very interesting feedback. They suggested us to continue work on PSL competence and to work for modeling the experience in permanent adult learning, adult guidance, learning and validation, especially in CPIA, which are the public adult education provider existing in Italy at local level. Our results can be also modeled for monitoring the PSL competencies, defining specific indicators not only in adult education but also in other domains. And then we can exploit also and further develop this subsidiarity model that we built with the Public Employment Service, enlarging our target or building new services based on the cooperation among public and private organizations. And this is very relevant both for our national plan for developing the competencies of adult people and also for implementing the territorial network for lifelong learning, a brilliant idea and law that we have in Italy since 2013, but that we need to implement on local areas. To conclude, we learned that it's essential to work on this competence. It is very relevant, especially to empower low-skilled adults and reactivate them, so to make them able to concretely act as full and aware citizens. The first step
Sorry,
that...
Chiara, 1 minute left.
Yeah, I'm concluding.
Great.
The first step for doing this was the adaptation of the existing guidance, training, and evaluation tools. In this view, our light is the LifeComp, which is the European framework meant at establishing the understanding of the personal, social, and learning to learn key competencies that provides specific guidelines for adapting these existing guidance, training, and evaluation tools. Thank you. If you have any question, I'm here and we're very happy to answer, if I'm able to.
Any questions? Well, I do have a question. Right. You rightly argue that motivation is a key competence for the participation of migrants, long-term unemployed, low-skilled, most of whom are or have vulnerable backgrounds. The importance of motivation in upskilling or reskilling programs. My question is, how were the unskilled adults identified? And how were they motivated to participate in the pilot project? I'm asking this question because personally I find this to be a hurdle in my work. It is very difficult for me to push people to be helped, to gain help. How did you do it?
Okay, I will explain how we was afraid as you about the recruitment of the users. So and at the end we managed to do it. The first thing is that Formazione, the organization within I work, is a training provider, adult learning provider. So the first thing was to go through our previous participants in previous trainings, analyzing their study title, their competencies, because we already know them, and propose them to be involved in this process. This process, just to let you know, is not finalized only to the self-assessment, but the self-assessment sees as next steps the involvement in specific training modules aimed to develop the competencies that the self-assessment results showed us to be improved. So they was involved in these activities, explaining the whole process, not only the self-assessment. This was the first channel. The second channel was the public employment services. This was very, very important. The cooperation with the public employment services was important not only for the process, but also for the recruitment and identification, because they have a wide number of adults that go there, ask for employment, ask for job, make some competence assessment, and this was a very interesting cooperation because they recruit a lot of users. And also public employment services worked not only at regional level but at local level. So we involved different offices at local level in different regional areas, and we managed to recruit these users. So at the end, the cooperation with public employment services and also the fact that the users already trust them, so there was a relationship with the professional, with the public employment services, was very important to motivate them, as well as the perspective of the further free training to be included in.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you for your question.
Questions? Any more questions, please?
I share my email address. If anyone has any other question, we will be happy to answer.
I think we can now move to Roxana to the other presentation.
Yes, hello. Can you see me? Yes. Okay, that's
Yes.
perfect. Okay.
Okay, Roxana. Is it Roxana or Roxana Maria?
It's Roxana. Maria is my middle name, but no one uses it, so it's just Roxana.
So, may I introduce Roxana from Romania? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to help you with that. It's Babeș Bolyai University.
Yes, it's so hard to pronounce. She will argue in her presentation that educational institutions should prepare students for international jobs, not just local jobs. Therefore, the subjects taught in higher education institutions should not only prepare students for using specialized knowledge in specific professional contexts, but they should also instill values and virtues. Those soft skills that are also essential on the international labor market. Consequently, ethics communication, argues Roxana, is today considered very important because students are prepared to have a strong work ethic. In this presentation, we will look, Roxana will look at the English for Specific Purposes course at the Faculty of European Studies in the unpronounceable university in Romania.
Okay, thank you. It's really complicated because the first name is actually Romanian. The second one is Hungarian because we have a very multicultural environment in the area. So I know it's difficult to pronounce some of the names that we have here. Thank you so much for your introduction. So as